boys and girls. My name is Sharon Ramsay-Curtis, and I live here in Colborne. The Colborne Library is my home base, and I am a local author. I've written a story called Gladiola Groundhog Sleeps In, and I brought Gladiola with me here today. Here she is. Now, I'm sure all of you know that when the winter winds start to blow and it gets cold out, groundhogs and mice and snakes and all the living things in the forest look for a place to snuggle down for the winter. And Gladiola is exactly the same. She has a small burrow at the edge of the great dark woods, and every winter, around about this time, she goes to sleep for the winter. And I think you probably know part of the rest of the story, and that is when February rolls around, it's time for her to wake up. In fact, that would be February the 2nd. Now, this story that Gladiola and I have written will give you a story about something that it was very, very unhappy that happened one special year. And we're going to tell you all about it. I'm going to show you some of the artwork that I did to make the story, and we've got a little bit of it back here on the library fireplace. So the first piece you're going to see is a picture of Gladiola. That's who she is, and she's in the front of the book, and you'll see her again in a few minutes. The next piece we're going to show you is Gladiola's burrow way deep, deep, deep in the winter, and very close to February 2nd. Now, here comes the crux of the story. One year, Gladiola did not wake up, and there were children who lived very close to her across the meadow, and they decided that they would try and help out. And the last picture is a picture of Gladiola coming out of her burrow because she hears a huge commotion outside, and she goes to find out what happens. And you're going to know what happens when I finish telling the story. So, shall we begin? Once upon a time, there lived a lovable groundhog by the name of Gladiola. She lived in a comfortable burrow at the edge of a field, very near the great dark woods. Each November, as she went to bed, she set her alarm clock to go off at 1/2 January. She dreamed of waking up in time to enjoy a cup of cocoa and pancakes before her big day on February 2nd. That is the day when groundhogs rise from deep sleep and check to see if long-awaited spring is on its way. One year, when she went to bed in early November, she became distracted and forgot to wind her clock. Outside, it snowed. And snowed and snowed. By the end of January, the snow almost covered the crooked smokestack. Just a tiny wisp of smoke was able to escape. February 2nd came and went, but Gladiola did not get out of bed. The wind howled and snow fell. Gladiola slept on. At the end of March, the children who lived across the creek and over the meadow found they were very tired of winter activities. They went outside to have some spring fun. They got out a kite to fly. The wind was fierce and blustery. In April, robins came flying back to the countryside. Everywhere they looked, there were big mounds of snow. No fat, juicy worms in the garden. No spring sunshine. Just gray winter days with skies like cotton wool. Inside, Gladiola snuggled more deeply into her bed.
Outside, the wind kept on blowing and shrieking. In late May, she rolled over and looked at the clock and went back to sleep. She was certain it was not time to get up. June arrived, and the north wind continued to rampage. The wild winter blizzards grew stronger. Birds sat on bare branches and shivered as the snow continued. The children peered sadly out of the bedroom window and wondered if they would ever have spring or summer fun. Together, they were fed up. Together, they made a map and a plan. They would go to Gladiola's bungalow. They trudged over the snow-covered fields, calling, "Gladdy, Gladdy, please get up right now." Eventually, the children made their way to her home and shoveled to the front door. In her warm bed, Gladiola heard the children calling and shoveling. She sat straight up. She was astonished by all of the commotion. She went to the front door. With great curiosity, she poked her head out and looked around. The children begged, "Gladiola, it's summertime. You'd better get up right now. We are so tired of winter." With that, Gladiola realized there were no dark shadows to frighten her back into her bed for 6 more weeks of winter. The weather could finally change. The sun shone, the snow melted, flowers grew and the leaves popped out, birds threw off their scarfs and toques. The children had spring and summer fun. Now, every year in November, Gladiola prepares for their autumn ritual. Everyone is invited for hot chocolate and fancy cakes. They enjoy the treats. Gladiola gets out her clock. She sets and winds it. She asks the children to double check that the alarm is set. Once Gladiola is tucked into bed, the children quietly close her front door and go back home. Gladdy settles in for a long sleep and dreams of seeing the children on February 2nd. Everyone in the valley is relieved to know that spring will never be late again, and they all lived springtastically ever after.